Greetings, this is Ras al Gar, and you are watching Ancient Frontier. It's been a while since I compiled a video and uploaded it to YouTube. I have been very active, however, on my Facebook page at Gaming with Ras al Gar. I do have some content still up there to view, mostly Skyrim related stuff, however. But it's been a while since I've done anything to upload to YouTube, although I have been pretty active on YouTube a little bit. As far as viewing goes, not so much as uploading, both in an effort to save time. But since the pandemic, I seem to have a lot more time on my hands now as I'm not having to go anywhere. I just go to and from work, and that's about it. But recently, I came into contact with a video on YouTube that was covering this, and it caught my interest, and I decided to take a look myself. Ancient Frontier, now, this is a game by Fantasy Flight Studios. They're a very small two-man company, so this is not a AAA game by any sense of the imagination. However, it is very enjoyable and pretty well done at a couple aspects. Now, the Ancient Frontier takes place far in the future, where humanity has colonized a number of worlds. There are the core worlds, and they're what is referred to as the frontier. If you think in terms of Firefly or Serenity, it has that kind of aspect to it, and there's elements of this that are very Blake 7. If you've played Star Frontiers, the role playing game, back in the 80s. There are elements that are very similar to this. So it has those very classic sci-fi tropes, and which makes it very interesting. And the other thing is this is a turn-based strategy game, which is not something you often see in science fiction, except for maybe XCOM. But when it comes to space fleet battles, you don't really see that. And that's one of the reasons why they developed this game. So there are two basic factions that you can play when you start a new game. Now, I do recommend, if you've never played this kind of turn-based ed, there is a tutorial here. I'm not going to go through that. I went ahead and just enjoyed it, just jumping into the game and learning how the mechanics work. We'll go over a little bit of that, though. And I have cut the music off so you can hear me talk, and for other reasons related to YouTube. So, the well, like the saying I like to say is, you don't feed the beast. All right, the apocalypse and what have you. I'm not going to feed those losers in Japan who think they can get away with anything. All right, so no music. Ha 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 ha. Sorry, but this is actually a great game, and by all means, if you do download this on Steam, it's like $24.99. It's a very fun game to play. You're gonna enjoy this. But we'll go ahead and we'll do some gameplay here. Now, like I said, there's two factions. The basic premise of this is that this is far in the future, after humanity has colonized a number of worlds. Some of them were called the core worlds, and there was a number of them that referred to the frontier. There was a civil war involved where the excuse me, the elements of the frontier tried to break away from the core worlds. They fought a war. The frontier side lost. And so what you have now is almost a little bit of a dystopian element where the frontier is the Wild West, and the core worlds are like the big city east, eastern United States, if you think of it in those terms. And so there's a bit of that element, Western feel, very related to Firefly and Serenity in that aspect, or Star Frontiers. But let's go ahead and get started here. I recommend that if you do play this, you start with the Federation campaign. They're a little more highly advanced technologically, and they maneuver a lot better. Your ships are a little more versatile and are a little more capable as far as maneuvering goes. The Alliance campaign, you're kind of starting with out in the both campaigns kind of started you out in the frontier, but the Federation campaign, pretty much your Naval Academy graduates, and you've come into the state-of-the-art equipment. The Alliance campaign begins, you're a couple of young uh, kids who are trying to make it out on their own and break away from their traditional roles and make a future for themselves. And so it has that kind of very core element. Now, as for the downside of the game, the story is a little bit, how should I say, well, you don't want to play this game for the story, let's put it that way. The voice acting, however, is not bad. I wouldn't say the voice acting is bad. I would say the voice actors are doing a good job with what they were given. Okay. But yeah, if you're looking for a compelling story, no. But I mean, still, there's enough of cheesiness here to make it a little bit charming. So let's go ahead and start with the Alliance campaign. And we're going to play on a veteran difficulty. This means that damage is permanent. If I lose a character, if I lose a ship, it's gone. I recommend you start out at the beginning difficulty to get a feel for it. That way your ships don't take damage between missions and you don't lose any characters. However, regardless of characters, and I'm going to make a mark here. I need to back up a little bit, but there are hero ships and heroic characters that you cannot lose in each mission. There are 2 free downloads, download content that I do recommend that you get, that you'll have to download separately from the game. However, both of these downloads are free. When you take into the fact that the base game is $24.99 and the amount of gameplay that it adds and strategy, I do recommend those 2 free downloads. But we'll get into that here in a minute. Let's go ahead and choose the veteran difficulty. And we're going to just do the standard. I recommend you do the standard mode, which allows you're going to need to save each time you complete a mission. Otherwise, you do the Iron Man where it automatically saves. That's really more once you've gotten some experience into the game. Do the standard save. And then we're going to start here. You get several empty slots. You can write over these, of course, but we're going to make us a new one here. And we'll get started.
Hey, Blake, you have got to try one of these. They are to die for. Blake?
I'm in here.
Ah, there you are, Pookie.
Hey, what's going on? What do I need to try?
Marcia has outdone herself. She made these soft sugar cookies, covered with frosting, in the most delightful colours. Come try one while they are still warm.
In a bit. I'm almost finished here.
What are you doing with those computers anyway?
I've been punching in all the info on the Pandora. This way you can really practice with your ship before we head out.
Oh, Blake, you're not being any fun. I've spent loads of time in simulators. I'm ready to fly her.
Every ship has its own personality, and it's better to be safe than sorry. Tell you what, just run one simulation with the Pandora, and I promise I won't bring it up again.
You know Mummy and Daddy wouldn't have bought any less than the best for me. I'm good.
Please, just one run. Do it for me.
You worry too much. Fine, one run. But I get to eat all the cookies.
Deal.
And yeah, this is what you can expect throughout the game. Now, the voice acting is not bad. The story could be a little better. But if you notice something about the guy's voice, does he not sound like Casey Kasem? I'm dating myself here. If you don't know who Casey Kasem is, he was a top 40 American radio personality. But that he sounds just like him. But I looked up in the credits. It's not Casey Kasem. He'd long been dead. But you can certainly tell where he got his influence. And I might be wrong on that, but it certainly sounds like him to me. But this is a simulation. Your first mission is then a simulation. So you go to select your ships. We'll go into that load screen. Now here we only have one ship to go with right now, so we're going to deploy, You hit the deploy button, that moves it over here to the battle units. Now you can purchase units, you can win units in missions and what have you, and then you launch the mission. Now over here on your right is everything that there is about your ship. Up at the top you have how many hydrium. Now hydrium is what you use to build and repair ships. It's the currency of the frontier worlds. You have energy, it's another form of currency and what it takes to allow your ship to run. And you have data. Now these are used to purchase your technologies from the tech tree, and there is these three particular currencies here go into play in the game, whether it's your ship or a character or equipment. It may cost some, all, or maybe none of those particular three in various quantities. Then you have your other options here. You've got your research, your buy ships, your missions, fleet, and your main menu, which we'll go and look at that for later. But in the Alliance campaign, your ship is called a Pandora. Now this is a steel-clad class frigate. Frigates in this game are considered capital ships. In that aspect, it is very Star Frontiers, where in the United Planetary Federation, the frigates were kind of the backbone, along with the assault scouts in the Federation, and where their evil Sathar, theirs were the destroyers. So frigates in this game are a capital ship. And the Ventura, now we start to get a little more information about the character that we play here. The young lady here is Ashes Silverhawk. This is her personal ship that she purchased with her family's money. So she's a rich princess, so to speak. And the guy we're talking to is her rich prince boyfriend, the Frontier, and there's a bit of family drama involved between these two. If you haven't quite figured it out from the storyline, they're kind of together. The Pandora, however, itself is a modified steel-clad with multiple tech upgrades, and this is a hero ship. It cannot be renamed, and if it's destroyed, you lose the mission. But here's what we got. We got 55 hull points, shield points of 30, and initiative of 25. Dodge chance of 5%, critical defense of 15%, damage between 6 and 10, shield drain 0, attack range 5, hit chance 85%, critical chance 20%. Now, right off the bat, these numbers may not seem much, but as you add weapons and equipment, these numbers will fluctuate. And so you'll get a better idea of what you're capable of doing between missions. But let's go ahead and get started.
So, what obstacle course am I running?
No obstacles. The simulator is set up for pirate raiders.
Raiders? Blake, you know a steel-clad isn't designed to take out fighters.
You can always use your torpedoes if they're too hard to hit. It's not like holograms can hurt you. Show me what you can do.
Okay, now he does mention torpedoes, as we see here. Now this particular ship that it's got highlighted is in blue. This is one of our ships for our particular faction. This is a simulator mission, and we'll get into simulations here a little bit. There are 3 basic missions in every game. There are the story-based missions, which advance the plot line. There are other missions, bounties that you can take, where mining operations and what have you, that you can earn various currencies from. You can get, starting off, you can do 3 missions between each main story session mission. Now this was part of one of the download contents that you can get for free. I do highly recommend that you get that because it does add a lot of playability to the game. The base game itself, if I remember right, there were a core of 30 missions. So just by adding the download content for these particular bounty missions, you're adding somewhere 90 to 100 more game sessions, if you would, and you can really, sink your teeth into this game that way. The other thing was adding character progression, which we'll go into here in a little bit. Right now we don't have any characters added, but we have our steel-clad. But right now what we have highlighted is this ship right here. Now this is a fighter. This is the Grizzly Wing, and if you hit this little Magnifying glass, you get more detail. This is an Alliance Explorer ring. The ship class is an Explorer light fighter. The primary weapons are a minigun. You have abilities. You have ability to scan an area on the map to reveal anything hidden by that. You have 3 charges of this, and it cooldown is 2 turns. You have an infinite use of evasive maneuvers, which prioritize uh, a defense basically, and you gain an additional 20% dodge and a 5% critical defense for 2 turns, and it has a cooldown of 5 turns. So you remember these are the things that affect your base stats. Then you have thrusters, okay, where you can divert power to the engines and it'll increase your range temporarily by 2, but only for that turn. And then this has a cooldown for 2 turns. What you don't want to do is move and then hit this, because then you've wasted it for the next 3 turns. You want to hit that at the start and then move. And because you see down here in your, let's close this. Now, here we have highlighted hex grids. This is my movement. Now, these 3 here show how many movement points I have. So theoretically, I could move 9 altogether, and then I have an action point, which I can use to either fire my guns or use one of my abilities. I cannot do both unless I have more of these. Now this particular fighter is an old scout class type of fighter, and that's what it was designed to do. It was designed to scout, get a feel for the battle, maybe make hit and fade tactics. So it's a very guerrilla type fight type of ship. But let's go ahead and get started here. We're going to move him, and you left click to move. So there's 3, 6. Then we're going to move him up here in a defensive position. Now, this is the other tactical aspect of the game that makes this really fun. You have these areas called danger zones. If you right-click that, it tells you it's a small asteroid cluster, which can be cleared with Area of Effect Weapons, AOE. Moving into the cluster will clear the space, but deal heavy damage. You don't want to move into this cluster and end your turn there. You can certainly move through them. Now, this particular vessel doesn't have shields, so I'm not going to do that. However, I'm going to sit right here, and if you notice where I've got my cursor now, there is a little marker with a shield, a half shield. This means that I have half cover, basically. Not concealment, cover. So there's a penalty on somebody on the other side of that firing through those asteroids to try to hit me. So we're going to take up that defensive position right there. And now we're going to use, so I've used all my movement points. I can't move anymore. As you see, there's no more highlighted spaces for me to do that. I could either try to fire, but I can't fire into a target that is not authorized. Here are my guns. My range is 1 to 3. My damage is 4 to 7. The miniguns are strongest against fighters and weakest against capital ships. So it gives you an idea what these weapons are best used for. Alright, now I could do either prioritize maneuvers, which I would gain a dodge bonus. But I don't want to do that just yet. And I certainly don't want to waste my thrusters because I might need those later. But I do want to find out what's going on here. So we're going to use our scan ability. Now it gives you this hex here. And this is for what, 4 by 4 hex grid. Quite a bit actually. Let's see. Let's try to put that over here. Now, you see what I did there? It'll always try to move back, but this is the actual area that I scanned that I could not see before, and there's our enemy. And we have a pirate faction here and a heron wing. Now, they have actual equipment here. Now, you can see where this affects their stats. Here's their base stats, and then these have crew items. They've got a fighter thruster, which allows a 5% dodge, but it penalizes them at a -11 to critical defense and a +4 energy deployment cost. This will make sense as the game goes. But notice this. They have torpedoes. An area effectability. It launches a light torpedo that hits all units within an area for 10 to 16 damage. And it's strongest against capital ships, and it has a range of fire. Friendly fire applies. So, this is very Star Frontiers. Fighters and assault clout ships had what they called assault rockets in that game. They had a range very similar to this, to 3 to 4 depending on the class of the ship, and they did a colossal amount of damage if they hit. And then these things also have shields, and then they have a targeting computer. So we don't want to group up within 2 spaces of each other. In fact, if I were here and I were here, he would fire here and he'd hit both of us, basically. So this whole area of effect, let's say if he fired there, this whole area would be affected, anything in it, plus that. Okay, so now we've got command of our Pandora, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to try to intercept him here. And look, we've got rockets of our own. So I'm going to try to get into cover here. Is he in range? Okay, now, anytime he comes in with a range, and I've got a range of 5 here, the target will become highlighted, like he is right there. Now, I could do a couple of things. I can use my standard guns, which are really best against capital ships. If I hit that, see, heavy cannon, strongest against capital, weakest against fighters. Alright, and then if I hover over that, it tells me what his stats are. Damage is 40%, shield drain 2 to 4. What my hit chance would be with those main guns is 70%, with a 36% chance of a critical hit. However, I do have this thing called an auto turret. Now, I've got infinite ability to this. There's no cooldown into it, and I can fire up to 3 times based upon my action points. What this is, my light autocannons are anti-escort weapons that are weak against capital ships. Now, this is really good against fighters if I can get them in there. It's really primarily against other escorts like Scout. Well, they're smaller class ships than this. In between fighters and this frigate are escorts. If you think of it in Star Frontiers terms, there would be your assault scouts. Alright, so I could do that, but he is out of range, so that's not an option. Or I could just go ahead and use a point, use my targeting computer, which will give me a 25% more chance to hit. In fact, he's not in range. So I now have 95% chance to hit with my base guns with a 46% chance to hit. Let's go ahead and do that. We'll take 2 shots because I have 2 action points remaining. 3 damage. And I missed. Okay, well, next turn. Now, you notice these particular factions are in green. Any ships that are allied to your team but are not necessarily under your direct control game-wise, unless the game session particularly tells you that something is a hero ship, in which it will tell you right up here. If you notice, there's the objective, plus 300 experience points. I can destroy all enemy holograms, and the Pandora, which is this ship right here, must survive. Now, if any of the allied ships are in that, it'll be listed right here. It'll also tell you what the status of the enemy is. There are 5 enemy targets that still remain, and if there are any optional directions, which you get bonus points for basically, then they'd be listed right here. Some games have a time limit. You want to pay attention to that, and that's usually listed right up here. In this case, this is a simulation. We're not really worried about time. So we now have our escort. This is the Dickerson, all right? And the details, it's an Alliance Ranger escort. Its primary weapons are autocannons. It has shields, evasive maneuvers, and thrusters. It's principally a ship that can either go between anti-escort or anti-fighters. That's really what the autocannon is for now. I've got 2 movement points. I've got a range of a total of 6. Not going to quite get there now. I don't want to go there because he has torpedoes. I'm going to try to go right here. I want to keep the distance between them. And since I don't have anything in range, I'm going to go ahead and hit evasive maneuvers in case he does try to attack me. Alright, we're going to end that unit's turn. We're done there. Now we've got the Alliance Craft Fighters. This is the Wasp 4-wing. Now this is an Alliance gunship. It has one torpedo, two light cannons, and then you've got your targeting computer, your shield recharge, and your thrusters. Now, the movement on this is only 3. Unless you boost it, and the most you're going to get is 5 for one turn, which is not a lot. So ideally, I have found these are great for ambushes or using them in conjunction with your other larger craft to weaken targets. What here I'm going to do, I want to get him into the action right away, so we're going to hit the thruster. We're going to put him right up here into cover so that once he comes around, if he does, then I'll be able to react next time and he'll be in range. And these particular craft have a range of 4, if I remember right. Yes. Okay, so we're done with him. And now we're going to do the same thing, and we're going to put him right here. And hit the targeting computer. He's ready to go. I'm going to end that. Okay, now it's the pirates' turn, and here they come. Only 2 of the 5 have shown up. Okay, I can't really do anything with him right now. Let's see. Now, you want to pay attention to the round. This is pretty much the initiative order. This will change each round. So it is theoretically possible, based upon how the dice rolled, that you don't see, for a particular opponent, or yourself for that matter, to move the same ship back to back. It can happen. You want to watch out for that, because nothing is worse than thinking, oh well, I can take another hit, only to the next round having put yourself in a position and then lose your ship because the same fighter won the initiative that you were up against. Trust me, it's a bad feeling. But we're going to go ahead and, let's see, what can we do here tactically that's going to be sound? Now, like I said, he's got torpedoes, so I don't want to put myself in proximity. But, let's see, I want to get him closer, but I've already used my boost. I can't use this for another 2 rounds or so. What can I do? Well, I'm going to try to move over here so I can be in support of him, because he's coming there. I'm going to end the initiative. Alright, now it's the AI's turn. Okay, now, here we go. Now, if you notice this particular shield here, he has cover for me from this point. He now has half cover for me at that point. However, if I flank him, he no longer has his cover bonus. We're going to shoot him. 65% chance to hit, 4 to 6 damage per shot. On successful hit, 31% chance for critical. Oh, that was a good hit. Another good hit. And there he is. And he just tore me a new one. Alright, we're going to move him here. Targeting computer. Okay, now, here's what we're going to do here. This is my scout now, remember? Oh, that was a good hit. Alright, we're going to park him right there. Now, I think these two have it. I'm going to fire and withdraw, and I'm going to come back down here because I've got 2 enemies creeping up on my 6. So we're going to use the auto turret. Okay, there's 1. 2. Now, I could possibly fire on him. Pirate wing, let's see, which wing is this? He's the Heron wing. Who's coming up in the initiative count? The Explorer wing, which is, I believe, this guy. Yeah, no, that's Alpha. Must be him. Nope, that's not him. Okay, it's somebody that's not on the board yet. Or not somebody I can see anyway. I don't see anybody else around. So each of the particular units has its own name designation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit my boost. And I've got 2 movement points. We're going to come down here, and he's not going to be in range. Oh, that was a mistake. Oh, that was a bit of luck. See, this guy has torpedoes. That could have been really bad. Alright, let's go ahead over here. Fire. Oh, nice shot. We're going to withdraw. Alright, now this particular fighter squadron, the Alliance gunship. If you notice down here in the left-hand corner, I've got a light autocannon, and then I've got a minigun. Miniguns are strongest against fighters. However, they only have a range of 1. So they have to be adjacent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and take him out. I'm going to right up here up against him. I'm going to fire my minigun. It's automatic. And I've taken him out. Now, I don't have any more movement points. Let's see, I haven't taken any damage. We're just going to end that turn for him. Now it's... Who's next in the initiative? Okay, nobody doing anything. It looks like that other fighter withdrew. Ha! I've scared him off. Alright. Nope, there he is. I don't want to get too spread out here, so let's kind of fall back a bit. And we're going to use my shield. Now, if you notice that blue bar there, that's the shields. The top bar red, that's your hit points. Let's see here. Okay. We're just going to use up all our actions. Uh-oh. Here he comes. That was lucky. Now exactly so what I was talking about earlier. I won the initiative kill. Taking him. Got 1 more movement. Can I get him in range? I do. Oh, he's not in range. Okay, we're going to hold. And he's pretty beat up. Let's see if I can't get him down here, though. Try to get into here. Now, I'm going to boost him and get him over here. Okay. Those are the last 2 on the board. Here they come. Alright, let's boost him up here. And then finally, let's get him headed back. Okay, this is a critical hit. That's exactly what happens when you square it. It zooms in on the action. Okay. So, just to show you now, since I haven't really had an opportunity to maximize it, I like to use the torpedoes when I have people within at least two enemy ships within that radius, but I want to show you what it looks like. Go here, fire the torpedo. Beautiful. look at that. Can I get him in range? I've only got one action. Well, I can set up the flank though. Meantime, let's see. Escort. No, okay, that's not the escort. That's these guys. We're just gonna poke in, soften him up. I missed. We're gonna fall back. Yeah, he's in a spot where he can't really do much. All right, now move into a flanking position. Well, it took you long enough here. Alright, now we're going to use our targeting computer.
Mission successful.
And that's it.
Unit unlocked.
Now, just as I was telling you earlier, once you achieve certain missions, and it doesn't happen all the time, there are times it does happen and times it don't. I'm not sure if it's a random element or if you have to meet certain conditions during the session in order for this unit to be unlocked. But so we've got 300 experience, we received 150 hydrium, 150 energy, 150 data. We got a new unit, which that is the gunship fighter, and then you should see the experience progression of each of the ships. Now, if I had a character, they would also be highlighted under here, and it will show you what the character's progression is. Now, each character has a certain amount of skills that they bring. Capital ships have 3 slots that you can include. Your characters are either going to be fighters or they're going to be for escort and capital ships only. And it'll tell you that, but we'll get into that here in a minute. So now we've got a promotion. Nathan Bird, okay, is a squadron leader with a hair trigger that takes chances to get the job done. Increases in accuracy and critical chance. Fighters only. This is exactly what I'm talking about. So not only have we earned a ship, but we've only acquired a hotshot pilot. Sometime today. Now, this is always interesting about this particular game. It always stops at 89% before the screen loads. I don't know why. Alright, so now we're kind of into the main part of the game here. Some of this I've already gone over with, but here's your fleet. And here's the new ship we acquired. Now, you actually get a wing of 4 of these vessels when it comes to fighters. Otherwise, when it's an escort, a capital ship, you just get 1. Now, here's all the capabilities of it, the abilities, all the ship data. It tells you that the gunship heavy fighter is one of the oldest, toughest fighter models ever designed. The gunship has found its way into almost every civilian and mercenary force. Standard loadouts feature twin light autocannons for ranged engagement, a minigun for short range, and a light torpedo for area damage. Gunships lack in mobility but excel in reliability with good armor and easy maintenance. And if you're not careful, they'll be expensive to replace. Heed my warning. So, now we've got our fleet. We've got our mission bar. So, this is the story mission. If we launch them, we progress through the story arc. These are the bounty missions. Now, this is part of the DLC, and you have simulator missions. Now, the difference between these is that while the bounty missions award you with various types of either currency, experience, and then they also may award you a ship or a crew member, or you may also earn equipment. The simulator missions, however, only award experience points. They tend to be tougher than the bounty missions, so because it's a training exercise. The upside of simulator missions, however, is that you're earning experience and it doesn't cost you as far as any kind of maintenance. The downside to simulator missions is that there's no goods or loot rewarded to you. The bounty missions, however, come with the caveat that they can be anywhere from easier than normal to rather difficult based upon the number of things you see here. They do award currency, they do award equipment loot, they do award potentially another craft or a personality, a character. The downside, however, is that it does cost damage and that you will have to repair your ship if you're playing on anything other than the beginner setting. Then you'll see here you have the market. Now, this is where you can buy new ships. As you can see, an Alliance gunship costs 375 Hydrium. Starting off, that sounds like a lot. Later in the game, when you get up to like about somewhere between mission 5 to mission 9, you're probably sitting around about 1,000 Hydrium. If you keep losing ships, it's going to add up. And as the story progresses, you want to be adding ships because the missions continue to get harder. And as you level up, so does your opponent, more or less. The other thing is here you have items. Now here's the trade goods you can have. Now this, you want to pay really attention to this. For example, this is 50 data trade good, but it's going to cost you 75 energy. You trade in 75 energy to get 50 data. Here, it's a 50 data trade good, only it's going to cost you Hydrium. It'll cost you 75 Hydrium to get 50 data. You see a pattern here. The 50 energy trade good. So you get 50 energy for the cost of 75 data. So this comes into play later in the game where you can think ahead a little bit. You think, okay, well I've got a bulk of data. Maybe I can bring some down because I really need Hydrium. But you don't want to overdo it because you're losing overall. So you want to try to work it out where it's going to balance you out into your favor. Then you can do either scroll all the way down here and you can see we have other items. We've got dumbfire torpedoes that you can put at the end of into various equipment slots. There's sensor probes and various ammos and shields and armor and rocket boosters to give you more range and battle computers which help your initiative rolls or accuracy and etc, etc, etc. You'll figure all that out on your own. You could break it down by type and that, but you just go to all items. Now, next is research. And we start out basically around 500 or so. Now, there's two different types of research. There's overall equipment research, and then there's individual research for your particular ships. Here is like an equipment research. If I hit that, this will unlock Tier 2 equipment. And you've got Tier 3 equipment. And finally, Tier 4 equipment. This allows those equipment to be unlocked and available in the market. You may be awarded something that's a Tier 4, and so long as you have the slot, you can put it in there. However, you cannot purchase that type of equipment until you've unlocked it with data points. And if you noticed, the further down you go, the more expensive it gets. So, and they have the prerequisites. So right now you got Tier 1 available to you in the shop. Now, if I hit the fighter, this tells me now, then you want to pay attention to this because this can mess you up. You know, see how that's costing? That costs 150. However, these up here, the very top slots, will only cost 50. Now, the dodge boost increases the scout dodge chance by 5%. Pay attention to what's highlighted over here. There's a scout and there's a gunship. If you highlight a particular item for a scout and you don't have a scout and you have a gunship, you only unlock that for the scout, which you don't have right now. So you want to make sure we want to go to the gunship. And then here we can unlock the shield boost. I've just purchased that. That's tier 1. And then I have a critical hit boost. There, okay? Next is escorts. The only escort in this particular faction is the ranger. I don't have any rangers right now. I don't want to spend that. Then we go to capital ships. Again, pay very close attention to what's highlighted over here on the right. The Steelclad is your ship in the Alliance faction. Later on there is a cruiser that's available, but we want the Steelclad for now. So we're going to unlock the shield boost, and we're going to unlock the accuracy boost. Alright, now we're done here with the research. We can go back to equipment. And let's see, I've got 350 data remaining. Each of these is only going to cost 100. Let's just go, let's see, what would be more important right now? Do I want shield tier armor? And this is where the customizing section, which is part of one of the downloads contents available, that includes all the missions. This is where some of the tactical decisions in your gameplay style come into play, and which really help influence your own particular strategy in the game. Everybody has their own particular play style. Okay, I have my own. I have found armor to be detrimental to the performance of the ships early on in the game, so I avoid that. Shield matrix is a good one. Shield generators are a good one. Weapon systems. Engine systems. The thing about the equipment is it has a positive and a negative. So let's go back to the market here and let's take a close look at this. For example, let's take a look at the fighter armor I'm talking about. Now, overlapping steel plates can be added to fighters, increase the defense at the cost of speed and agility. So I get plus 7 hit points and a plus 7% critical defense on my fighter, which right now is the gunship, which has a range of 4 unless I boost it, and then it has a range of 3 unless I boost it, then it has a range of 5. If by adding armor I'm upping the defense of something that has shields, however, I'm now -1 to range. It's already a slow ship, so I go from my range of 3 down to a range of 2. And while I've gained 7%, plus 7 hit points and plus 7% crit defense, I'm now at a -9% dodge ability at a plus 3 energy deployment cost. So each ship has a certain amount of energy that it can create. And those things factor into your ability to use your abilities, regenerate your shields, action points, those things. All of those things come into play, and you can dig yourself into a hole where you're not very capable the more heavily armored you are. So for example, if I were to add this now by itself, I'd only have a ship that can move 2 to 4 every time I used a boost. Okay, but for the most part, I'd be in very close for it. It makes for a very, if I need to get somewhere quick, I'm not going to get anywhere in a hurry. Okay, but again, I can balance these things out with other equipment slots. If I come back to the fleet, for example, and I hit that, now, if I go to items, here are my equipment slots. There's 1, 2, and 3. This is where some of the meta game comes into play, because certain equipment can only fill certain slots. So if I go back to the market and to that particular item, now it says slot 1 and 2 only, meaning, and not to be redundant here, but I just want to be clear, I can only fill it in this section. I can only fill it in this equipment slot 2. I can't put it in slot 3. This is again is where the meta game comes into play. How you equip your ships. You want to get the most benefit towards a ship from equipment to the least amount of detriment to your equipment. Now, this is where it gets interesting. because in the game I can receive equipment that's awarded to me, but it's damaged. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Let me give you an example here. I'll try to explain an example to you rather than hit one here. For example, let's say I came across a damaged piece of Tier 1 fighter armor so that it changes the dynamics. I only get plus 6 hit points, but I gain then a plus 7 critical defense. I don't lose any movement range, but then I might be at minus 10 dodge or at a plus 4 equipment charge. Or there still might be a movement range there, but the dodge penalty is higher, but the energy cost is lower. So taking those things into account, you want to balance your ship. You want to emphasize your strengths, minimize your weaknesses, and you want to balance out the capabilities of your ship based upon what your tactics are. And again, everybody's playstyle is a little different. So this is where the real mechanics of the game come into play and why I find it actually a fairly interesting game to play. Okay, so we've covered research. Use your save game slots. Anytime you hit that, it just saves the game. Then you get your quests. Now, these are things that come up randomly. You don't get to select your quest. It just tells you, oh, hey, you've got a new quest. Your goal is, and these are just goals, you don't have to do these. There's no time limit on them. However, if you accomplish them, you earn certain things. Right here, if I hire 3 crew members, analysis of our fleet suggests that more experienced officers could greatly increase our survivability. Once I have accumulated these 3, I will gain 100 data. Now, as I go in Harvard 1, it'll say 33%. Once I fire 2, it'll say 66%, etc. And so, as the game goes, you can use those as goals. And you think, okay, you know what? I probably want to do that later. So, things to keep in mind. And then, of course, you've got your main menu, equipment. Back to the fleet. Now, let's go ahead and, since I've got a little bit of money here, we're going to hire a crew. Well, we already do have a crew member. I forgot. Right here under crew is anybody that is in my crew but is not assigned. Here's that fighter jock that we were talking about. Now he's only fighters only. He increases accuracy and chance, critical chance. Accuracy by 11%, critical chance by 3%, but he does get plus 5 hit points to his ship. So this is how you do this now. You have to select the correct ship. I've left clicked on the Maverick Wing, as it's called. This is my Alliance gunship Maverick Wing. You can rename the wings to something you like. The computer automatically generates a random name. Then you just move him over. Boom, he's assigned. From here on out, as you succeed in missions, he will gain experience. As he goes up in level, his bonuses will increase and have an overall effect to the ship in play. The same is true with your hero ship. However, this particular characters, while they level up and the ship levels up with them, if you don't have any crew slots, you're not going to otherwise gain more benefit. So what I want to do is I want to hire a crew member just to show you for tutorial purposes here. We're going to go to the market. We're going to select crew. Now here's a list of everybody that's available that's a crew member. Now, the first ones that are always available are the pilots. There's an Alliance Ace. Now he costs 500 Hydrium and 200 energy and 200 data. But plus 5 hit points, plus 6 dodge, plus 8 accuracy, plus 5 initiative, plus 1% critical chance, which will go up as he levels up. He's an ace, and you notice he's a fighter only. The Alliance pilot is a good choice starting off. Only 300 Hydrium, 100 energy, 100 data, but you gain somebody that's plus 5 hit points, plus 10 dodge, plus 1 initiative. Now, as you're seeing as I'm doing this, and all of these are different, here's an Alliance Hunter, who's a little kind of in between the two classes here, plus 5 hit points, plus 10 crit, plus 20 multiple chance multiplier. Now you can start to see how these particular characters will fit a particular ship of a particular class. So you got your Daredevil, and then you've got your Scout. Plus 5 hit points, plus 4 dodge, plus 7 initiative, plus 1 vision. You may want to put an Alliance Scout in a Scout ship. I'm just saying, if you ever do buy a Scout ship. And then if you want somebody who's really going to bring the hurt, get the Alliance Ace if you can, or the Alliance Hunter, Daredevil, what have you. But those are not the only ones available. There are other types of characters. There is, for example, Gunners, who specialize in, guess what? Guns. Plus 5 hit points to your ship, plus 6 accuracy, plus 2% critical hit chance. The Alliance Science Officer, which they're actually pretty useful. 5 plus 5 hit points, plus 11 maximum shields, plus 1 vision. The Technician, plus 11 hit points. Everything is highlighted now, only things that I can afford. We get a Navigator, plus 5 hit points, plus 7 initiative, plus 1 vision. So we want somebody for our main ship. Do I want to bring a gunner? Do I want a science officer? Do I want a technician? Do I want an Alliance Navigator? Now if I had the coin, I could even get a chief engineer who would have plus 5 hit points, plus 3 max shields, plus 3 shield regeneration, plus 3 critical defense. A medical officer who gives you plus 5 hit points, guess what? Plus 2 hull regeneration, plus 6% critical defense. By the way, remember, I've got 3 slots of these crew members in a capital ship. Their effects stack where they overlap. So this is another really fun aspect to this game, where it allows you a great deal of more customization, flexibility, long-term strategic thinking, and it's one of the reasons why I find this game an incredible bargain for the buy. Um, Go ahead, check it out on Steam. If you enjoyed this, please give me a thumbs up. You're welcome to subscribe. You don't have to. Just viewing my channel helps me out tremendously. I want to thank you for your time and coming along and looking at Alliance Frontier with me. This is Ras al Gar, and thanks for watching. Bye.